Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel for so many of you. And if you're just landing here, I'm glad you landed. Hope you stick around, hit that like and subscribe button. I am Afefe with Touched by Tarot and Beyond. I do mostly political readings, and then at least twice a month I check in with you all for a more spiritual reading on the new moon and full moon. All right, we're going to get right in. Got a lot of ground to cover today, you all. Government shutdown. I'm taping this early Wednesday morning. It's official. We're in, it's happened. Spirit said it was more than likely. No matter how we feel about Schumer and Jeffries at this point, there was no desire. Absolutely. It was done before it was done, that they were not going to be able to negotiate a deal around keeping the Affordable Care Act in place and funding for that. So we know, it is what it is. We saw this coming. Now, in the wake of whatever we want to call it, that address to the military commanders yesterday by TV Pete, they're calling him TV Pete and Kankles. Quite an interesting day it was. And the extent to which Spirit had already said that when that happened, that there was going to be such a feeling of resentment, and these incredible career military personnel being insulted beyond belief, being told. I had to write this quote down. For those of you who may not be familiar with me, I'm a former newspaper journalist, so I like to, I love quotes, direct quotes, etc. So one thing that Kenkel said to them yesterday, and this is a quote: "If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future, but you can just feel nice and loose, okay?" TV Pete had a very similar message. You can't be fat, you can't be this, you can't be that, or else you got to go. You could just go ahead and resign today. Like, to say that to this group of people, commanders, top of the top, cream of the crop. Wow. Mistake, mistake, mistake. That said, we also saw yesterday on across all media platforms, we heard a lot from retired generals, etc. And interestingly, when they were posed with the question, what can the military do to resist this, there were a lot of them who punted it back to Congress, that in order for there to be any direct I don't want to use that retribution word. That takes us off in a different track, right? We know who's been using that to do what he does. But that they were essentially saying it is up to Congress to do this, right? I want to go to Spirit, you all, and see a couple of things, and then I'm going to get to some answer some questions. I requested you to leave some questions for me on Sunday, and you did, and I thank you. I'm going to get to a few of those. I got so many, I'll be on here for 2 hours, but I'll pick up a few here and there. If you have some other questions, feel free always to drop them in the comments. And also, right before I get started, while I'm thinking about it, for those of you, I am hosting a book club this coming Saturday, October 4th, 5 p.m. Eastern, so adjusting for your time. But if you're interested in joining me for a book club discussion around Kamala Harris's 107 days, I will be hosting that privately via Zoom. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me by email at touchedbytarot@gmail.com. All right, touchedbytarot@gmail.com. And I can sign you up and send you the Zoom link for that if you want to connect on that and do the book club Saturday. All right. You all, my guides are saying Kankles wanted this shutdown. Not only because it was going to delay the release of the Epstein files and the swearing in of the new representative out of Arizona, which got them the Dems the necessary votes to push for the release of those files. So not only does it accomplish that, but it also accomplishes lots of federal workers who will leave, resign. It also accomplishes what he sees in his mind, whether it is for entertainment purposes only, right? Got to say it. The dementia kicking up to the next level, but there's this God complex. And the whole thing has been, this whole year has been about dismantling government. So now, government shut down, I'm getting that he actually feels that this is giving him free license to do whatever the heck at the next level. Like, not like he hasn't been doing it anyway, but he's been doing it with Congress, by basically bulldozing Congress. And with government being shut down, it's almost as if in his mind, in his delirium, in the people like, the Stephen Millers of the world, who are in his ear and really running things behind the scenes, there's just no holds barred. It's a field day for them. But I'm gonna go to Spirit, you all. I will be reading for those of you who read. I'm using the Gold Lear tarot today. All right. Spirit, did he want this government shutdown, and how's it going to play out? Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck after I shuffled. If you read with me, you know my aces are my spirit guide's way of saying yes, I'm on track with that line of thinking and the messages that I'm getting from them. All right. He wanted this shutdown, you all. This is something he feels he can sell to his base and still try to point the finger at the Democrats while all three branches of government are Republican led. Spirit, did he want this? He did. Two of Wands, because of what he's planning in the future. He's got some other things planned around that are authoritarian and really leading America in his mind down the road to dictatorship. Full on, full stop. And we have the Fool, period, point blank. There it is. New, willing to take the risks of stepping out and pushing the boundaries further and further and further away from the norms, away from the Constitution, away from how things work in government. He sees it as almost, what Spirit is saying is almost like wiping the slate clean. Like he has an opportunity while the government is shut down. He doesn't even have to talk to Mike Johnson or Thune, right? He doesn't even have to deal with them. Y'all go sit down somewhere, because now we are completely without, unfettered is the word that Spirit just gave me. We're unfettered and we can do what we want to do. Now I am going to ask, I'm going to get into the shutdown itself. How long? Because as long as the Dems hold fast around healthcare and their desire to, in their big ugly bill, to take away those benefits, and we know that was kicking in at the end of this year. Spirit, the shutdown. What is the impact and how long is it going to go on? Five of Cups, right out the deck. I want to pull a couple more cards before I interpret. King of Cups and the Ace of Swords. King of Cups is crossed by the King of Pentacles. Again, I'll show these to you in a second. And the Three of Wands. And the Ace of Swords is cut by the Ace of Cups. And the Five of Cups is cut by the Page of Wands. Okay. Couple of things. These two kings that come with this Three of Wands, there's this is going to go on for a little while, you all. And I say that because these kings feel like people who are in Kinkle's ear. Miller, sure, always. But this is Besant. And we'll get to him in Argentina in a moment, that $20 billion to Argentina. But this Three of Wands, it feels like this was a plan, that this was, I'm hearing from the guide, you all, that after the BBB was passed earlier this year, and the Dems did what they did. A lot of people were very angry with them for allowing that to go through and casting their votes. But this feels like they knew this was coming, and there was a plan for this. There was a plan for a longer government shutdown, because they see it as a pathway to advancing their agenda without any impediments from governmental forces, such as they are at this point. Now, we have the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Swords. There's that, in an interesting way, that feels like what this does. It heightens the people, the American public, it heightens their desire for change. And I say that because the third set of cards that I have here are the Five of Cups, extremely disappointed, extremely emotional turmoil, but it comes with that Page of Wands. So there's a renewed sense of, we have got to do something about this. We, even meaning some of the MAGA faithful, we've got to do something about this. He has simply gone too far, and now we are hurting. Now, interestingly, what Spirit just gave me is, keep your eyes on JDV and Vance and Don Jr. around Turning Point. Erica Kirk is going to become a figurehead, essentially. Not really in charge, not really the poster person for this organization. But the wheels under the bus are going to be taken over by, and are being taken over at Turning Point by Vance and Don Jr. in particular, because they're about milking that money. And it is about the voter turnout and keeping tabs on the young voters and that youth movement that CK had started through Turning Point. But it's also about the money. It's also about making sure that they can keep that funding coming through that organization to help them down the line. Spirit, how long is this going to go on? Man, it's Nine of Wands. Like, how much are the American people going to be expected to carry? How long can they carry this burden? What's interesting is, and Spirit has said this, I've read it on the platform, many others, and you yourselves, you don't have to be psychic for this, could see the writing on the wall that a lot of what was coming through this bill and through the way that they timed when some of these things would go into effect, such as the actual cuts to Medicaid and other programs, healthcare related programs towards the end of the year, that is something that, in this Nine of Wands, they're waiting to see. It's almost a game of chicken, is what Spirit just said to me, right? Who's gonna blink first? Kenkel's and Company, or the American public, specifically the MAGA base? Who's gonna blink first? Who's gonna cave? Who's gonna absolutely say, all right, this it's too much, it's too much. Spirit, will the government reopen within a month, by the end of October? Will the government reopen by the end of October? Knight of Cups, there's going to be a push to do it, because again, there's something there where they want to paint an image or a picture and say, but before these cuts really kick in and people start suffering, we're in charge. We got your back. It's a game of chicken. And there's a Five of Wands. Now, that is disturbances. That is conflict within the Senate and House of Representatives is what I'm getting. Spirit, will we begin to see more dissension in the ranks of Congress? We've been waiting on that. The Spirit's been talking about it. Many of you have asked about it and thought about, like, when the heck does Congress wake up? Three of Pentacles. So they're already talking amongst one another. I will tell you, we know Mike Johnson is a lapdog, whatever. But Thune came as a surprise to many people because his background as a conservative was not necessarily in alignment. We knew Mike Johnson was going to just jump in there and do whatever, whenever, however he was told. There was a different expectation for John Thune. And I think there's something there where especially on the Senate side, because smaller number, they feel like they're a little, a little above the House. There's some group of senators that I think they're talking to Thune, and we are going to see something during this month of October while the government is shut down, where we're going to hear more and more that there is this dissension in the ranks, and we have the tower. Watch out. This feels like a breakthrough, a breakage, something where, because they recognize all things going into 2026, and the objective, clearly, it's become like it's undeniable. The objective by Kankles and company is to disrupt the elections. That is a lot of what this military, rah-rah is about. Getting ready to send them into the cities and get people accustomed to a military presence so that when they prepare to interfere in those elections, they've already got the mechanisms in place. But there's the Ten of Swords. These senators, and I'm not going to leave out the House. There was a time when it was funny and it was almost everybody was on a power trip. We're on the side of power with Kankles. We're unstoppable, blah, blah, blah. This is going to up the ante for all of us. But it's backfiring now. Between the Tower and the Ten of Swords, they recognize that their careers, their political careers are on the line. I think we're going to see more of them resigning as a result of this shutdown. And there's the Eight of Swords coming right behind the Ten of Swords. And this is them fearing the worst. The worst has happened. The worst has happened. And I will tell you, what I'm getting from the guides, you all, is as weird as it may sound, as implausible as it may sound, there were many people, just as the MAGA base and faithful were in denial, and to some extent, about what Kankles and certainly their minds weren't even on Stephen Miller. They knew he was there, but they didn't see him as the source of the directives being given. And I think a lot of them are in shock about that, the extent to which Miller has all this power behind the scenes. We ain't hearing a whole lot about Susie Wiles these days, although trust and believe she's there. But this manosphere that is increasingly noticed, Kristi Noem is kind of pushed to the sidelines lately. We saw the Truth Social post of reference to Pam Bondi pushed to the side. We're hearing more and more where Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, is being put in the spotlight to carry out a lot of this. The manosphere has gone like to Mars and is operating the government in DC from Mars practically, right? And we have the Two of Swords. There's a conflict brewing, you all. There's a choice that's going to have to be made. There's a line that's being drawn in the sand with even conservative, ultra conservative Congress people in the face of this. Because economically, we have the Eight of Pentacles. Perfect. Thank you, Spirit. We have the Eight of Pentacles that comes up. This is going to affect the markets. This is going to affect the economy at large. There's so... they just showed me a pot on a stove, like a kettle, just like a teapot. And, it gets to a point where it just starts bubbling over. Even if you've got a lid on it, it'll start sparking out of the spout or whatever. It's reaching that point. And I do think what Spirit is saying here is this government shutdown. My question was whether it would go through the month of October. I think we're going to see a big chunk of October, if not all of it. I'll look back at it later. But while this is boiling, while that pot goes from a simmer to a royal to spilling out, you're going to start seeing some people just figure out, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know who that is. I don't know. I can't say that it's Tr0mp in particular. I'm almost want to tell you no. He's too far in. He's in too deep. But the voices in his ear, the people who are pulling him out to the side and having some private conversations, those people, those senators. And in the House, I don't think they don't want to deal with Mike Johnson. They know he's a liability. They know he's ineffective. But that's not to say that certain, like the Thomas Masseys of the House, right? That's not to say we won't see more conservative House members of the House of Representatives start, like, we have got to come up with a plan B. We've got to come up with a plan B. All right? Woo! It's rough. But he's drunk on power, and he wanted this shutdown. He wanted it. Wow. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and get, we're about 20 minutes in. I'm going to go ahead and get to some of your questions. Thank you so much for leaving your questions with me. So, talking about Stephen Miller, many of you, this was a popular one, wanting to know, will he ultimately be held accountable? Because he's driving, again, he's driving so much of this. And Cankles, as we watch him deteriorate in front of our very eyes, he needs that constant input. Tell me where we're going. Tell me what to say, right? Will Stephen Miller ultimately be held accountable? Is there a downfall in store for him? Will he be held accountable? We have the 6 of Cups and the Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck after I shuffled. It's going to be a while. And I'll tell you why. He's still considered useful. And he's considered Miller. And he's considered useful to them, not the whole Heritage, Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, the whole cadre of folks behind this push to authoritarianism. He's still considered useful to them because he does appeal to a certain segment of that base, the ones that just absolutely the most extremist version. And that version is the version that they're going to continue to increasingly rely upon regarding enforcement, regarding sort of almost paramilitary is the word I'm being given, forces. So he's going to be around for a while. I wish I saw something different, trust me. But he's going to be around for a while. And we have the 7 of Cups, but it's a question of what to do with him. Because while he is able to exert an extreme amount of influence over Cankles, when Cankles exits, and we're going to look at that as well, that of course was a very popular question. When Cankles exits, he still has a certain degree of usefulness to a J.D. Vance, but not the same degree. So it becomes... He's sidelined a little bit. He may not have as much in-person time with them, but he's still a part of the mix. And there's the 6 of Pentacles. They're going to continue to work with him. So will he ultimately be held accountable? Intuitively, I feel yes. I feel the answer is yes, but it comes after so many things have changed in government. This comes perhaps after 2028, when there is a turnover in leadership. Now, a lot of people, this was one of the questions that I got was, are we going to see a turnover in leadership sooner than that? In other words, will this whole regime, will JD, everybody get snatched off stage and there be, some of you have referred to it as a council, like a governmental council or a shadow government, where there will be people who gather, maybe members of the military combined with members of the legal community, combined with congressional members who say, we've gone way too far. We are losing America right before our very eyes. Is this coalition forming or going to form and step in, maybe even on a temporary basis, to run the federal government, having removed this regime. We have the Ten of Cups. It's certainly a desire. And it's certainly possible, is what Spirit is saying, because the Ten of Cups is a card of coming together. Very often, it's a card of happiness. It's a card of satisfaction. It's a card of, whew, we got through this and we're doing it together. We're working together. This is a card of a coalition, very often seen more in a family domestic sense, but family, if you think of that politically in terms of democracy, in terms of the citizenship of the United States, the citizenry of the United States. Will this coalition take over? We have the moon. Ooh, like the level of secrecy and care that has to be given to even begin to think about how to implement something like that. And the Five of Wands, a conflict, because while the desire to do that, this coalition, this potential coalition, while the desire and the need to do it is there, they also see it as they do not want to be perceived as having done anything illegal, having also gone against the Constitution in some regards as it relates to the executive office. You know, do we take out the ones who are breaking the law, and then in so doing we somehow become culpable? The Four Swords, trying to get clear on it. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you for that confirmation. Yeah, trying to get clear on it. So the possibility of a coalition that has to step in by hook or crook, right? Has to step in and rewire, reframe, rebalance the government. Very much at play. Very much at play. The timing of that is, I do not see that happening until Spirit is saying a lot of things hinge on this 2026 election or the events that lead up to it, because this increased military presence in cities, this increased targeting of people in the judiciary and otherwise, SCOTUS plays a role in a lot of this. One of your questions, and I'm going to go ahead and address it now, was the Voting Rights Act. Will that get dismantled by SCOTUS? Is that in real trouble? I have my impression, but let me zip it up and let's go to Spirit. Spirit. The Voting Rights Act and SCOTUS. Will they dismantle the Voting Rights Act? Especially heading into the midterms. Will SCOTUS assist this regime in dismantling the Voting Rights Act? Is it in trouble? Is the Voting Rights Act in trouble? Is it at risk? The Nine of Swords, and the Nine of Cups. All right, so there's competing forces here with justice. Okay, here we go. We're looking at this, that's at SCOTUS. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I was holding that up upside down. We're looking at SCOTUS with the Nine of Cups. There are those, there are the six, right? The six conservative justices who are okay with it. Absolutely okay with it. But they also understand the extent to which they will have completely dismantled any respect and trust in the court by doing so. Notwithstanding some of the, Roe or Dobbs and some of the other decisions that they've since made, not even withstanding any of that, where it's already been like, okay, you are completely corrupt. You have been completely co-opted. There's a little bit of this would be a biggie to dismantle the Voting Rights Act. Will it be upheld, Spirit? Will SCOTUS somehow, some ways, perhaps surprisingly, will they uphold the Voting Rights Act? We have the Three of Cups, that's celebration. And we have the Magician. There may be, they may tweak it in some way that seems to appease Cankles and this whole regime. They may tweak it in some way, add something to it, reword it in some way, rejigger it somehow. That's that magician energy. So they may try to work something, but ultimately I see a celebration here, and I want to get clarity around that. Spirit, is that a celebration among the American people that it has held? Or is that a celebration among MAGA? The Fool. I think that's a celebration among the American people. The Fool is ruled by Uranus. Uranus also very tied to Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius, right? I know I'm connecting a lot of dots there, but think about that. So we have been told by many astrologers, etc. Many of you already know that is as hard as it is, as horrific as it is, we're being told that at the end of all of this, there is a power to the people. There is a sort of inner and outer revolution, politically, culturally, economically, in how we do things in America. So there's that Fool. There is also going to be a push, however. Spirit is reminding me, Clarence Thomas spoke at some Catholic university or something in DC recently, and he came out and said, why do we always have to uphold precedent? Why do we always have to keep, stay on board when we have orangutans driving the train? In fact, he used that metaphor, right, which was very interesting. Why do we have to stay on the train of what was just because it was? So I think that goes back to with that magician. It's almost as if they're going to try and, I don't know if it's rewrite it or amend it or something with the Voting Rights Act, but there's still this Three of Cups that feels celebratory in some way. And there's judgment, a recognition and a second chance by the people. An awareness, a aha moment by the people. Is this a victory on behalf of the people, Spirit? King of Pentacles. That's Roberts, Chief Justice. And the Nine of Wands at his breaking point. Because as much as he's been a good boy, and done what he's been told he needed to do, he also feels the weight. And none of them are getting any younger. We've been looking at Clarence Thomas and his health issues for a really long time. There's a Page of Wands and an Eight of Wands. Will the Voting Rights Act hold? I want something, please give me something definitive. The Sun. Thank you. Thank you. I think the Voting Rights Act is going to hold as a whole, as a mechanism. But they're going to do something with it in order to appear to have appeased this regime. Okay? All right. $20 billion to Argentina. And we know now that Scott Bessent was an engineer of that. We also remember that the president of Argentina is the same guy who showed up at the CPAC meeting back in February of this year, who gave Elon Musk that showed up on stage with that chainsaw. That was him. That was the Argentinian president, right? So he's in trouble. His regime is in trouble. And they're basically going in. Scott Bessent cut a deal with some billionaire over there to say, well, we'll come help you out. Give me a minute. Let me go work it out for you. And so that's what's happened. Now, Spirit has also said, and there has been some coverage in the news as well, as I know, all psychic, that the game plan, which is what I'm going to go and confirm with Spirit, the game plan is this deal is harming U.S. farmers. This $20 billion handout, which we know MAGA has always said, U.S. first? What happened to America first? What is that about? We can't have health coverage, but you had $20 billion to just ship over there. And who pays that ultimately? The taxpayers, right? So what we're getting is a bailout. That part of what Kenkels and company are planning is a bailout or some form of a bailout for farmers so they can ease the pain a little bit to them. Five of Cups, because they recognize they've stepped in it. They recognize that this is the people. This is the MAGA base. This is the farmers that are seeing their crops wither, that are seeing their farms put in jeopardy, that are looking at the potential of bankruptcy. A lot of disappointment and disillusionment. Dang, as I was saying the word, I pulled the card. Four of Cups, ultimate card of disillusionment. Disillusionment with Cankles and this whole, the way things are playing out. Disillusionment with the idea of patriotism and America first. But here you went and let Besant hook up his boy for 20 bill, like not pocket change, 20 bill. And there's the magician again. Okay. That's pulling the wool over their eyes. There is going to be some sort of, Cankles and this regime is planning some sort of financial reimbursement or incentives or recovery funds or whatever you want to, however it turns out. But they're gonna pull a rabbit out of a hat and offer something to mitigate the losses of U.S. farmers. But who pays for that? American taxpayers, right? And there's the Six of Swords. So they're going to try, they'll do it. I feel like this six is a timing aspect as well. 6 weeks, 6 months, six something. But they're figuring out how to implement it, right? How to distribute the money to farmers who are going to be already severely impacted. And then try to sell it as, we got your back. It is America first. And even though we wanted to help out Argentina because of its right-wing government, and we got to look out for our right-wing brethren, we didn't forget about you. We didn't do this to harm you. And there's a Seven of Wands. Be strong. Stay with us. Hold the line. We got you. But ultimately, who pays? The Four of Wands, we do. The American taxpayer pays. Four of Wands, card of commitment, card of looking out for each other. In a different context, like it's a marriage card where you make a commitment to something. But here it's, the whole patriotism thing. We are still very committed to you. All right. And I'm going to do one more question that came up a lot. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Someone called her, like, had she become a strange bedfellow, right? Especially in relation to the Epstein files. We know that that she came out recently and said, listen, if something happens to me and you hear, it was not me. I did not do this to myself, right? So she had some serious concerns apparently going on. And she's been seen as perhaps, one of those Congress people that Spirit talked about earlier that are indeed changing and changing their stance and being more vocal about that in the halls of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene, what's her real deal, Spirit? Is she an op? Some of you put that out there as well. Is she pretending to say this just so she can go back and report? Is she an underground spy for the regime? Or is she is she on a legit level? This is how I feel. There is this faction of the base, of the conservative base, that has said pedophilia, not having it, and we want to know who did what. We want those files released. Is she standing behind that? What's Marjorie Taylor Greene's real situation? All right, I'm being led to a different deck to look at her. This will be the Kipperish deck. Kipperish, let me hold that up a second longer. Okay. Spirit, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Woo. Okay. This just flipped, so I'm not going to ignore it. No access and blocked. So part of her impetus, you all, is because we do know she went from being a conservative darling, even to some extent being considered a darling of Cankles, to, you go over there. We needed you during the campaign. Not so much right now. So she's been sidelined. That no access is really standing out to me. She has not been given access to the real players, and she deeply resents that. So to that extent, right off the bat, we can see that what's happening with her, strange bedfellows, is she really legit, genuine about this? It is politically motivated. She has some resentment about how she was sidelined. There's a gift. There's money involved. I don't know if this is what I'm getting you all is this could be related to her reelection campaign, that somebody has gotten some organizations or whatever donors, high dollar donors have gotten through. I don't know if this is specifically in Georgia, but they've gotten through to her to say, this, if you lean in this direction, ultimately, while there may be a lot of blowback and risk to you right now, ultimately, when these files come out and you were one of the people who stood out and said we need to have them, we got your back. We'll help fund your reelection. I also see that she has Senate higher aspirations. I want to say higher political aspirations. And she's got people in her ear who are saying, you can do this. And here we have it, confirmation. Faith movement, conservative Christian movement with a house. And that's where she is. She genuinely feels like this is a platform in pushing for the release of the Epstein files. That this is a platform that is going to give her longevity. Right? It's not about her heart so much as it is about she's a political mover, and she that's what she does, and she has her sights set on. And here we have the Ice Queen. Exactly. It is not. She is not a bedfellow. She's not coming over to the light, to that side, but she just sees it as being in the long run politically expedient. And she sees the abuse of these women. She recognizes that. So to make sure I'm being clear, it's not that she doesn't care about the issue. It's not that as a woman she's not sensitive on some level to what happened to the Epstein survivors. But that is not her. She's not coming from her heart as her primary motivation, like some sense of really deep moral conviction about it. It's really the primary thing for her is she sees it as a platform that's going to distinguish her and differentiate her from the rest of the pack moving forward. She's looking down the road, down the line. And there's legal. She is concerned about the DOJ targeting her. And that's why she came out and said, if something happens to me, it wasn't me. She's concerned about that. But she's also concerned about being used to cover up something that was clearly illegal. This whole operation, the whole, what has been done with Maxwell to give her, and she sees endings that are coming, legal endings, meaning at some point she knows this information is coming out and she just wants to be quote unquote on the right side of that. But by doing that, she sees it as being able to advance her down the road politically. All right, you all. Thanks again for the questions. I didn't get to a whole lot of them because I'm already at I'm at 42 minutes. Typically, I try to keep my videos around a half hour or so. So thanks for sticking around with me. I appreciate you. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. And also, if you can, hype the video. That helps the algorithm and helps me get out there. I've had a lot of people ask how to hype. I'm still trying to figure it out. There's some things I go on a page on somebody's content, I hit the like button, and as soon as I do that or try to comment, I'll get a prompt that says, do you want to hype it? So just try to check that out. If others of you know how that's done, I would really appreciate you hyping the video. And don't forget, if you want to hang out with me on Saturday in a private call, won't be recorded, to talk about this book, I'd love to have you there. touchbytarot@gmail.com. Meantime, chin up. You know how we do. Not folding, not bending, not running around scared with like a chicken with our heads missing, right? Not doing any of that. Shoulders back, and always coming from our heart. now more than ever. Deep breaths and affirm your life, right? Affirm your life. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you real soon. Friday. All right. Bye.